There's a quiet thief that often sneaks into our lives after 50. It doesn't knock on the door. It doesn't introduce itself. One morning you notice your fingers are stiff when you button your shirt. Another day your knees whisper a dull ache when you rise from your chair. That thief is inflammation, and over time, it robs us of the simple joys of walking with ease, gardening, or holding a grandchild without wincing. But here's the truth most people never hear. While painkillers may mask the discomfort, nature offers foods that can ease inflammation at its root. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today, I'll share 10 fruits, ordinary yet extraordinary, that science has shown can bring real arthritis pain relief and restore comfort to your joints. Imagine reclaiming freedom and movement with nothing more than the gifts already waiting in your fruit bowl. When I think of berries, I often remember a patient named Linda, a retired teacher in her early 60s. She loved to quilt, but her swollen fingers made it almost impossible to thread a needle. One day during a consultation, I suggested she add a simple cup of mixed berries to her breakfast routine. She smiled skeptically. How could something so small help something so big? Yet a few weeks later, Linda told me her mornings felt lighter, her hands less puffy. Science backs her story. Berries, whether strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, or blackberries, are tiny powerhouses filled with anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their rich colors. Think of anthocyanins like a fire extinguisher, cooling the flames of inflammation that smolder in arthritic joints. They also provide vitamin C, crucial for collagen production, which acts as the cushioning in your joints. In fact, studies show people who eat berries regularly may have lower levels of C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation in the blood. And the best part? They're incredibly versatile. Blend them into smoothies, sprinkle them over yogurt, or enjoy them fresh from the bowl. Each bite is a gentle reminder that even small, sweet choices can shift the trajectory of our joint health. Several years ago, I treated a man named Harold, a retired mechanic who had been wrestling with painful gout attacks. His big toe would swell overnight, turning what should have been a peaceful morning into a battle with throbbing pain. Painkillers helped temporarily, but they always left him tired and foggy. When I recommended tart cherries, he chuckled. "Doc, I'm supposed to eat pie to fix my joints?" But instead of pie, Harold began drinking a small glass of unsweetened tart cherry juice each evening. Within a month, his gout flares were fewer, and the stiffness in his knees began to ease. Cherries, particularly tart varieties, contain anthocyanins and polyphenols, potent antioxidants that work like peacekeepers inside the body, calming inflammation before it spirals out of control. What makes cherries especially powerful is their ability to lower uric acid levels, the culprit behind gout. A study published in Arthritis and Rheumatism showed that people who consumed cherries had a significantly reduced risk of gout attacks. Beyond gout, cherries support overall joint health by reducing oxidative stress and protecting cartilage. And they're easy to include, fresh, dried, or juiced. Just steer clear of added sugars. Harold's story is proof. Sometimes the simplest remedies are the sweetest, and cherries can offer arthritis, pain relief, in a way that feels both natural and comforting. If berries and cherries are the colorful sparks of summer, citrus fruits are the bright sunshine of winter. I recall a woman named Marjorie, 72, who came to me with deep worry about her stiff shoulders and hands. She had stopped attending her water aerobics class because even lifting her arms above her head felt like a chore. When I asked about her diet, she admitted she rarely ate fruit, especially citrus, because she thought it was too acidic. I explained that while citrus fruits like oranges, lemons, limes, and grapefruits are tangy to taste, inside the body they provide some of the gentlest and most important support for joint health. Vitamin C is their shining gift. It's like the scaffolding that holds a bridge together, because vitamin C builds collagen, the framework that cushions joints. Without it, cartilage wears down faster, leading to more pain. Research has shown that people with higher vitamin C intake are less likely to develop inflammatory arthritis. Citrus also helps lower markers of inflammation, like C-reactive protein, while their hydration properties keep joints lubricated. Marjorie began enjoying a glass of water with lemon each morning and an orange as her afternoon snack. Within weeks, she said her shoulders felt freer, as though she had oiled the rusty hinges. Sometimes the key to flexibility is simply adding a little sunshine to your plate. Not long ago, a gentleman named Frank, a retired mail carrier, shared his frustration with me. After years of walking routes in every kind of weather, his knees had grown weary and swollen. "Doc, I feel like the Tin Man without the oil," he joked. Instead of adding another pill to his regimen, I suggested something far sweeter: fresh pineapple. Frank was doubtful. Pineapple felt more like a vacation treat than medicine, but he agreed to try. The secret lies in bromelain, an enzyme found abundantly in pineapple. Think of bromelain as nature's cleanup crew, breaking down the proteins that fuel inflammation. Several studies, including research published in Clinical Rheumatology, have shown that bromelain can reduce swelling and stiffness, particularly in people with osteoarthritis. Beyond that, pineapple is rich in vitamin C, supporting collagen and keeping cartilage resilient. Its antioxidants also help neutralize the tiny sparks of oxidative stress that irritate joints. Frank began enjoying pineapple chunks a few times a week, sometimes blended into smoothies, other times fresh from the bowl. A month later, he came back smiling. "My knees aren't perfect," he admitted, "but they don't argue with me every step anymore." That's the power of pineapple. It transforms from a tropical delight into a natural tool for arthritis pain relief, bringing sweetness where there was once only ache. One of my favorite stories comes from a woman named Evelyn, a lively grandmother in her late 60s. She adored chasing after her grandkids in the park, but knee pain had slowly stolen that joy. She described it as walking on sandpaper. Rather than prescribing yet another anti-inflammatory pill, I encouraged her to try something simple: add a handful of red or black grapes to her daily snacks. She laughed, saying, "Doctor's orders to eat grapes? Now that's a prescription I can live with." Grapes, especially the darker varieties, carry a compound called resveratrol. Imagine resveratrol as a traffic officer inside your body, halting the chaotic rush of inflammation before it clogs your joints. Grapes also deliver quercetin, another antioxidant that shields cartilage from wear and tear. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that regular grape consumption could reduce inflammatory markers, offering tangible joint pain relief. Beyond fighting inflammation, grapes hydrate. Their high water content helps joints stay lubricated, making movement feel smoother. Evelyn started keeping a bowl of grapes on her kitchen counter. Weeks later, she told me she was back in the park, laughing and running with her grandkids again. Sometimes joy returns in the simplest ways, and in Evelyn's case, it came in the form of a cluster of grapes. There's something timeless about apples. I think of George, a retired firefighter in his 70s who came to see me after struggling with stiffness in his hips. He sighed and said, "I thought I was strong enough to fight fires, but now tying my shoes feels like the real challenge." Instead of rushing to medication, I asked him about his diet. He admitted he rarely ate fruit, dismissing apples as boring. I smiled and told him that sometimes the most ordinary foods hold the most extraordinary healing power. Apples are rich in quercetin, a flavonoid that acts like a shield against inflammation. They also bring plenty of vitamin C, which is essential for producing collagen, the springy cushion that keeps cartilage strong. And with their high fiber content, apples support gut health, which we now know plays a key role in regulating inflammation throughout the body. In fact, research has shown that diets rich in high-fiber fruits like apples can lower overall inflammation markers. George began eating an apple every afternoon, often slicing it with a bit of peanut butter. A month later, he chuckled and said, "Doc, I'm still not running marathons, but bending over doesn't feel like a wrestling match anymore." Sometimes it's the humble apple that quietly restores strength and dignity to daily movement. I once met Clara, a retired librarian who had always loved gardening, but arthritis in her hands had made pulling weeds and planting bulbs a painful ordeal. Her daughter brought her to see me, hoping for alternatives beyond stronger pain medication. I suggested she add pomegranates to her diet. Clara raised her eyebrows. "Those tricky little seeds, worth the effort?" I reassured her that, yes, they were worth every bit of patience. Pomegranates are loaded with polyphenols, including punicalagin, which is like armor for your joints, slowing the breakdown of cartilage and soothing inflammation before it flares out of control. A study published in the Journal of Inflammation found that pomegranate extract significantly reduced cartilage-damaging enzymes in people with osteoarthritis. That means this jewel-toned fruit does more than ease symptoms. It helps protect the structure of your joints over time. Clara began sprinkling pomegranate seeds on her salads and blending them into smoothies. Within weeks, she noticed her hands felt less stiff in the morning, and gardening became joyful again rather than a test of endurance. She told me, "I still have to pace myself, but now I feel like the garden and I are friends again." That's the gift of pomegranates. They don't just reduce arthritis pain, they help nurture the very foundation of joint health. One summer afternoon, a patient named Robert came into my office. At 70, he still loved mowing his lawn and playing a little backyard baseball with his neighbors, but his joints often ached afterward. He confessed that during the hot months, he reached for soda to stay cool. I suggested a sweeter, healthier alternative. Watermelon. He grinned and said, "Now that's a prescription I won't argue with." Watermelon is far more than a refreshing treat. It's rich in lycopene, the same compound that gives it its bright red color. Think of lycopene as a gentle firefighter, cooling the smoldering embers of inflammation in arthritic joints. Studies have linked lycopene-rich diets with lower levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation. Watermelon also offers beta-carotene and vitamin C, adding extra protection for collagen and cartilage. And let's not overlook its high water content, which helps lubricate joints, reducing stiffness and discomfort. Robert swapped his sodas for chilled slices of watermelon. Within a few weeks, he noticed that after mowing the lawn, his knees didn't bark at him as loudly. "It's like oiling up the gears," he said with a smile. Sometimes relief doesn't come from a pill or a bottle. It can come from a juicy slice of fruit that cools both the body and the spirit. When most people think of fruit, they imagine something sweet, but avocados are a different story. I remember Helen, a retired nurse in her late 60s, who told me she dreaded mornings because her hands felt stiff and clumsy. "I used to comfort patients," she said, "and now I can't even open a jar without pain." I suggested she try adding avocados to her meals. She laughed, thinking of guacamole as a party food, not medicine, but she gave it a try. Avocados are rich in monounsaturated fats, which act like natural lubricants for the joints, easing stiffness and protecting cartilage from damage. They also contain lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidants that work like sunglasses for your joints, shielding them from the glare of oxidative stress. Vitamin E in avocados further helps to quiet inflammation. Some research has even suggested that phytosterols in avocados may help slow the progression of osteoarthritis. Helen began spreading avocado on toast and blending it into smoothies. After a month, she told me her mornings felt different. Her hands opened more easily, and she could once again twist open that stubborn jar without calling her grandson. Avocados remind us that not all fruit is sweet. Sometimes it's creamy, subtle, and quietly powerful in restoring joint function and independence. There's an old-world charm to figs. I recall Samuel, a soft-spoken gentleman in his 70s who loved playing the piano. Over time, arthritis had crept into his knuckles, making each note feel like a battle. He told me with sadness, "I feel the music slipping away." Instead of starting him on stronger medication, I suggested something unexpected: figs. He was skeptical but intrigued and agreed to give them a try. Figs are rich in polyphenols and flavonoids, compounds that act like guardians against inflammation and oxidative stress. They also bring potassium and magnesium, minerals that support bone strength and muscle relaxation. For someone like Samuel, this meant not only less stiffness, but also a body better equipped to handle the daily strain arthritis brings. Their fiber content supports gut health too, and as modern science now shows, a healthy gut helps calm systemic inflammation. A small clinical study has hinted that diets including figs can improve markers of bone density and reduce inflammation, especially helpful in older adults at risk for both arthritis and osteoporosis. Samuel began eating figs with his morning oatmeal, and within weeks he noticed his fingers move with more ease. Smiling, he said, "The music feels like it's coming back to me." Figs prove that even a fruit rooted in history can write new stories of healing today. As we've seen, nature provides a pharmacy hidden in plain sight, wrapped in the colors and flavors of fruit. Each bite carries compounds that soothe inflammation, protect cartilage, and restore the rhythm of movement. Arthritis pain relief and joint pain relief don't always come from bottles. They can come from bowls of fruit. If you begin weaving these foods into your daily meals, you're not just nourishing your body, you're reclaiming freedom and joy. I'm Dr. Brian, and I encourage you, keep your joints happy, keep moving, and keep believing, because healing is always possible.